John bellows out, "I can't find my favorite pen." His harried wife, Mary, runs in from fixing dinner and says, "It's right here, dear, right on your desk." She sounded worried that he would stay upset. This is a typical interaction of an abuser and his partner. He makes ridiculous demands and she tries to placate him. What's wrong with this picture? Listen in as you hear why Mary stays stuck in this toxic relationship with John. And this could be you or I. Right now you're listening to Scientific Healing with Dr. Anastasia Chopless. I know the power of vibrational healing by combining physics with ancient healing arts to develop my own system that has amplified results for hundreds of my clients and students. The most important factor in your life for health, wealth, and happiness are your relationships. You can discover more about scientific healing and the deceptively simple processes for interacting with others positively and effectively. Go to scientifichealer.com/relationship to learn how to be energetically attractive to others and magnetically attract people to you. In the case of our harried wife, Mary, she knows something is off in her relationship. As I've mentioned before, relationships are energetically very complex. And the reasons why people stay in abusive or toxic relationships are just as complex. And it has nothing to do with intelligence. Sometimes one trigger will help propel you forward to seek help. But back to Mary. She keeps trying to please John, even though he's impossible to please. She thinks she can save him and finally make him happy. I have been where Mary was as well. It is especially difficult if you have children with this abuser, as Mary had with John. Men can be also abused, but it is in women's nature to be a caregiver, even to the detriment of themselves. A mother will first attempt to shield her children from the abuse, and second will sacrifice her own happiness to keep the family together, no matter what its state. 27 years ago, I found myself in this exact situation. I was just like Mary, who I had observed trying to placate the very toxic John. I saw my past behavior in her. My horrified reaction told me just how far I had come. Okay, that reaction that I had is the same reaction that other people have when they see you in such a situation. But they're not telling you, like they didn't tell me and they didn't tell Mary. And like Mary, I didn't want to break up my family. I wanted my children to grow up with their dad. I mean, I had a nuclear family with mom and dad, and it felt important to me. Here's what I discovered that helped me out of my faulty thinking. I went to a self-help group of men and women who'd been in similar situations. When I introduced myself, they asked me, "Why did you come?" I said that my husband was abusive towards me, but no one believed me because he was charming and handsome and intelligent. They would tell me, "Oh, what a nice guy." And I seemed to be the unhappy one. Therefore, people on the outside tended to blame me for the situation. I even got blamed from our therapist that was trying to help repair the relationship. I also said that I didn't want another divorce. I wanted some way to work it out. One by one, in the self-help group around the table, one by one, they told me their stories. They were in exactly the same situations that I found myself. The tears really started to roll because I finally felt understood. And some people told me their stories as partners of abusive relationships, some as children of parents who were abusive towards one another, and some as the parents of children and they watch their children going through the same things. The most important ones were the ones that were grown up and had experienced that kind of relationship between their parents when they were children. And they all said the same thing universally. They wished their parents had called it quits because they never had peace at home. And they were all abused by the abusive parents, and they even had a distorted sense of self. They later chose inappropriate partners for themselves that mimicked their parents' relationship, and for all of them, it was a hard uphill road to make it to peace and health in relationships. And that's why they were in the self-help group, many of them for at least 10 years, if not longer. Those were perspectives I hadn't considered by not choosing to stick up for myself and take care of myself in that abusive relationship. I was modeling the wrong behavior for my children. And I started thinking about it and thinking, wow, my son is going to grow up as the abuser, and my daughter is going to grow up to be the downtrodden. Fortunately, that's not the case. So let's go back to Mary. What happened to her? She too was a very intelligent, well-educated woman. It took over a dozen years of abuse before she finally called it quits and divorced John. She took their 3 kids with her, and he barely sees anymore. This also mimics my former relationship. My ex hasn't even met one of his grandchildren, who is almost 5. Yet he travels all over the world often and could stop off to visit from time to time. So, to summarize, Mary stayed in a relationship with John to keep her family together. She had even hoped if she'd placated him and pleased him that he would finally be happy instead of abusive and angry all the time. She wanted to save him and her children, and she forgot the most important person in her children's life. Herself, their mother. The lesson is that history will repeat itself until you choose to stop the pattern in its tracks by not doing what your savior, caretaker genes are telling you to do. Seek help. Get advice. You can't know everything. And the trouble is, a lot of really smart women don't know that they need to find help. And that really came home to me when I was in that self-help group and started to say how my son tore up all of his jeans. He was about 5 at the time, and I couldn't afford to buy new ones. And one of them volunteered to patch all the holes in his jeans, and she brought them back to me and was delighted to do it. So you can get help. You just have to reach out and ask for it, and it will be given to you. And that help didn't cost me anything. And lastly, find a lawyer if you need to know your rights and your options. It doesn't have to be like really tragic and really big. It just helps and is very calming to know what you can do and how you can take care of yourselves. So the lessons I learned from this self-help group are just some of the lessons I learned to develop very healthy relationships to all of those people around me. You can go through a few of the energy healing processes I started at that time in my free 5-step relationship program at scientifichealer.com/relationship. It covers and takes care of 4 of the 14 energetic connections that you have with other people and the world around you. So stay tuned for more about relationships and what to do about them. If this program was helpful for you, please give it a 5-star or a thumbs up rating, share it with your friends, and please subscribe to my channel. Until next time, this is Dr. Anastasia Chopoulos.